The first thing I noticed was that my stepmother had chosen my burial dress. It was the pale blue one my father bought me for my 19th birthday, the last gift he gave me before the accident took him away. The dress had once made me feel beautiful. That night, standing beneath the gold chandelier of our family sitting room, it made me feel like a body already prepared for a coffin. "Stop shaking," Vivian ordered. Her voice carried no guilt, no hesitation, only irritation. She stood behind me, tightening a silver necklace around my throat as if she were preparing me for a wedding. Her fingers smelled of expensive hand cream, and the diamond ring on her right hand had been purchased with money from my father's estate. Money that should have belonged to me. "You're making this harder than it needs to be," she continued. "Mr. Moretti is a powerful man. Girls from respectable families would beg for this opportunity." I looked at her reflection in the mirror. Her blonde hair was arranged perfectly. Her makeup was flawless. She wore a black evening gown with pearls around her neck, as though she were attending a charity dinner instead of delivering her stepdaughter to a criminal. Behind her, my stepbrother, Nathan, leaned against the bedroom door. He had inherited none of my father's kindness and all of his mother's appetite. His suit jacket was open, his tie loose, and a smug smile rested on his face. "Maybe she's afraid he'll find out she isn't worth the amount you promised," he said. Vivian's eyes narrowed at him. "Enough." Then she looked at me again. "The agreement has already been made, Emilia." Agreement. Such a clean word for what she had done. She had sold me. Not for $50,000. Not to clear a small gambling debt. Vivian had traded me for $2 million, protection from a federal investigation, and the forgiveness of money Nathan had stolen from men who did not forgive theft. I did not know all the details yet. I only knew that 3 days earlier, 2 strangers had arrived at our home and locked themselves in my father's study with Vivian and Nathan. I had heard shouting through the walls. I had heard Nathan crying. And I had heard one name spoken more than once. Luca Moretti, the most feared mafia boss on the eastern coast. They called him the Black King. Some said he owned judges, police captains, politicians, docks, casinos, construction companies, and half the nightclubs in the city. Others claimed he had survived 3 assassination attempts before his 29th birthday. No one agreed on how many people he had killed. Everyone agreed that no one crossed him twice. And tonight, my stepmother was handing me to him as payment. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications, because this is not merely the story of a helpless girl sold to a monster. It is the story of how the people who tried to destroy her accidentally placed her beside the most powerful man in the city, and created an enemy they would spend the rest of their lives regretting. Vivian pushed a loose strand of my dark hair behind my ear. "There," she said. "At least you look presentable." I stared at myself. 23 years old. Too thin from months of skipped meals. Dark shadows beneath my eyes. A blue dress covering bruises on my upper arm where Nathan had grabbed me the night before. I did not look like a bride. I looked like a sacrifice. "You told him I agreed to this?" I asked. Vivian's expression changed. Only slightly. But I saw it. "Yes." The lie came easily to her. "And what exactly did you tell him he was buying?" Nathan laughed. Vivian turned and slapped him across the face. The sound cracked through the room. For one satisfying second, his arrogance disappeared. Then hatred flooded his eyes. Vivian ignored it. She placed both hands on my shoulders and looked directly at me through the mirror. "I told him you were obedient, educated, discreet, and grateful." "I'm not grateful." "You will be. For being traded like property? For saving this family." I turned around so quickly that her hands fell away. "This family?" My voice trembled, but I refused to lower it. "You emptied my father's accounts. Nathan sold company information to criminals. You mortgaged this house 3 times. And now you expect me to save you?" Vivian's face hardened. "This house belongs to me. It belonged to my father. And your father is dead." The words struck harder than her hands ever had. Nathan watched us with a smile returning to his face. Vivian stepped closer. "You should remember something, Emilia. Your father left behind a confused will, unpaid taxes, collapsing businesses, and a daughter who has contributed nothing to keeping this family alive. I worked at his company. You answered phones and reviewed invoices. I found the missing payments Nathan was hiding. Nathan pushed away from the door. You should be careful. Or what? I asked. You'll sell me again? His jaw tightened. Vivian raised one hand between us. This argument is finished. Mr. Moretti's driver is waiting. My heart began pounding harder. Until that moment, some weak, childish part of me had believed it would not happen. That Vivian was bluffing. That the agreement would collapse. That Luca Moretti would change his mind. But through the bedroom window, I saw 3 black vehicles parked beyond the iron gate. Men in dark suits stood beside them, waiting. The room tilted slightly. I gripped the edge of the dressing table. Vivian noticed. For one brief moment, something almost human moved behind her eyes. Then Nathan's phone vibrated. He looked at the screen and went pale. They said 5 minutes. Vivian's softness disappeared. She picked up a small silver purse and pushed it into my hands. Inside were my identification card, a lipstick I had never used, and $20. No phone. No bank card. No keys. Nothing that might help me escape. You planned this carefully, I whispered. I planned it efficiently. Did you ever love my father? Her breathing stopped. Nathan looked away. Vivian's face became perfectly still. That question will not help you tonight. It was the only answer I needed. She escorted me downstairs with her hand around my elbow. The house was quiet. The staff had been dismissed that afternoon. The security cameras had been turned off. Even the clocks seemed silent, as though the building itself was ashamed to witness what was happening. As we crossed the marble entrance hall, I looked toward my father's study. Its double doors were closed. I remembered sitting on his lap as a child while he taught me to read financial reports. He used to underline numbers with a blue pen and ask me what story they told. Money always speaks, Emmy, he would say. People lie, but numbers reveal where their loyalty lives. I wondered what the numbers would say about Vivian now. $2 million. 1 stolen inheritance. 1 stepdaughter exchanged. The front door opened. Cold evening air swept into the house. A man stood outside beneath the stone portico. He was tall, with silver beginning at his temples and a narrow scar running from his ear to the edge of his jaw. Miss Hartwell? He asked. I nodded. My name is Matteo Rinaldi. I work for Mr. Moretti. His gaze moved from my face to Vivian's hand around my arm. His expression did not change, but something in his eyes sharpened. Vivian released me immediately. Everything is arranged, she said. Matteo did not acknowledge her. He opened the rear door of the middle vehicle. I remained where I was. The engine hummed quietly. Beyond the gates, the city lights glowed beneath a cloudy sky. I could scream. I could run toward the neighboring houses. I could throw myself onto the road and beg a stranger for help. But then I looked at the 2 men positioned near the gate. At the cameras mounted beneath the roof. At Nathan standing behind me with his hands in his pockets. They had planned for panic. They had not planned for silence. So I gave them silence. I walked down the steps. As I reached the vehicle, Vivian called my name. I stopped but did not turn around. Emilia. Her voice softened. You must understand. I had no other choice. I looked over my shoulder. She stood beneath the warm light of the house my father built, protected by the fortune she had stolen and the son she had chosen over me. You had many choices, I said. You simply chose the one that cost you nothing. Then I entered the car. Matteo closed the door. The locks clicked. The vehicle moved away. I watched the house disappear through the tinted window. No one came running after me. No one changed their mind. No one cared whether I survived. I kept staring until the gate vanished behind the trees. Only then did I allow one tear to fall. I wiped it away immediately. Matteo sat in the front passenger seat. The driver's face was hidden in shadow. Neither man spoke for several minutes. The city outside slowly changed. Quiet residential streets gave way to illuminated towers, crowded restaurants, luxury hotels, and nightclubs guarded by men who watched our passing vehicles with unmistakable recognition. Traffic lights seemed to turn green before we reached them. Cars moved aside. Even police vehicles avoided our convoy. That frightened me more than weapons would have. Power did not need to announce itself when the entire city already understood. "Will he hurt me?" I asked. Matteo looked at me through the mirror. His expression remained controlled. Mr. Moretti does not explain his intentions to me. That wasn't my question. No. It took me a moment to understand. No, that wasn't my question. Or no, he won't hurt me. The faintest hint of amusement appeared in his eyes. He does not harm women. What does he do with women who are given to him as payment? His amusement vanished. You were not given to him. I looked at the locked door. I was put into his car without my consent. I am aware. My stepmother said there was an agreement. There was. Then what would you call this? Matteo turned his head slightly, studying me. A mistake. The answer chilled me. Ooze. That remains to be seen. He faced forward again. I received no further explanation. 40 minutes later, the city disappeared behind us. We traveled along a narrow coastal road, climbing higher as black water crashed against cliffs far below. Eventually, iron gates opened before a long driveway lined with cypress trees. At the end stood a stone mansion overlooking the sea. It did not resemble a criminal fortress. It resembled an ancient European estate transported into the modern world. Warm light glowed behind tall windows. Ivy covered sections of gray stone. Fountains moved quietly in a circular courtyard. But armed men guarded every entrance. Cameras followed our vehicle. Steel barriers rose from the road after we passed. Beauty on the outside. War underneath. The vehicle stopped. Matteo opened my door. I stepped onto the gravel. Wind swept in from the sea, lifting my hair and cutting through the thin fabric of my dress. The main doors opened before we reached them. A woman in her late 50s waited inside. She wore a simple black dress, and her gray hair was pulled into a neat bun. Her eyes moved over me with concern. "Poor child," she whispered. Matteo cleared his throat. The woman straightened. "I am Teresa. I manage the household." "Where is Mr. Moretti?" I asked. "In his office." "Does he know I'm here?" A man's voice answered from the staircase. "I knew before you entered the gate." Every person in the entrance hall became still. Teresa lowered her eyes. Matteo turned toward the stairs. I followed their gaze. Luca Moretti stood halfway down. He was not what I expected. Perhaps fear had created something impossible in my imagination. A giant with dead eyes, blood on his hands, and cruelty carved into his face. The real man was worse because he looked human. He appeared to be in his early 30s, tall and lean beneath a perfectly fitted black suit. His dark hair was swept back from his forehead, and a short beard sharpened the angles of his face. He wore no tie, no visible weapon, no jewelry except a silver watch. His left hand rested lightly on the banister. The knuckles were bruised. His eyes settled on me. They were dark brown, almost black from a distance, and completely unreadable. He examined my face, the blue dress, the small purse, and my bare arms. His attention paused on the bruises Nathan had left. A muscle shifted in his jaw. Then he looked at Matteo. "Where is Vivian Hartwell?" "At her residence." "You left her there?" That was the arrangement. Luca descended the remaining stairs. His movements were quiet and controlled. Arrangements change. Matteo did not respond. Luca stopped several feet from me. "Did you agree to come here?" There was no greeting. No attempt to comfort me. Only the direct question. I glanced at Matteo. He gave no indication of what I should say. So I told the truth. No. The entrance hall became even quieter. Luca's gaze remained on my face. "Did anyone explain the agreement to you?" "My stepmother said she traded me to clear a debt." She lied. My fingers tightened around the silver purse. Which part? The debt was not hers. Nathan's? Yes. What did he do? Luca looked toward Teresa. "Prepare a room." "I don't want a room," I said. Teresa froze. Matteo watched me carefully. Luca turned his attention back to me. What do you want? To know why I'm here. You need rest. I need answers. His eyes narrowed slightly. Most people in the house were probably terrified of that expression. I was terrified too. But fear had already taken everything from me that night. I had nothing left to protect except the truth. My stepmother dressed me, removed my phone, put $20 in my purse, and handed me to your men, I said. I've spent the last hour wondering whether I'm going to be imprisoned, married, killed, or sent somewhere worse. I will rest after you tell me why. For several seconds, Luca said nothing. Then he gestured toward a hallway. My office. Matteo stepped forward. Luca stopped him with a glance. She comes alone. My heart struck painfully against my ribs. I followed Luca down the hallway. His office was large but unexpectedly simple. Dark wooden shelves covered 2 walls. A fire burned behind a black iron screen. The only artwork was an old painting of ships caught in a storm. Luca closed the door. The click made my entire body tense. He noticed. Without commenting, he walked around a wide desk and sat. He pointed toward the chair opposite him. I remained standing. So be it, he said. He opened a drawer and removed a folder. My father's name was printed on the tab. Daniel Hartwell. Every thought left my mind. Why do you have that? Luca placed the folder on the desk but did not open it. Your father and mine conducted business together. My father owned shipping warehouses. Exactly. He wasn't involved with criminals. Luca's expression did not shift. Your father was involved with anyone necessary to protect his company. You're lying. I rarely need to. I stared at the folder. My father hated people like you. He hated losing more. I moved closer to the desk. What is in there? Contracts, banking records, insurance policies, correspondence between your father and mine. My father has been dead for 3 years. And during those 3 years, your stepmother has been selling portions of his company to men who intend to take control of the northern docks. I shook my head. The company is almost bankrupt. The company presented to investors is almost bankrupt. The company hidden beneath 6 holding corporations controls land worth hundreds of millions. A cold sensation spread through my chest. That isn't possible. Your father built his fortune quietly. Vivian has spent 3 years trying to find the final ownership documents. Did she? No. Then what does this have to do with me? Luca leaned back. Your father placed the controlling shares in a trust. I could barely hear myself breathe. For whom? You. The single word changed the shape of the room. I reached for the chair and lowered myself into it. Luca opened the folder. He removed several documents and placed them before me. I recognized my father's signature. I recognized the blue ink he always used. My vision blurred. I forced myself to read. Hartwell Maritime Holdings. Beneficiary, Emilia Rose Hartwell. Transfer effective upon 25th birthday or legal marriage, whichever occurs first. I looked up. I'm 23. Yes. Vivian told me my father left everything to her. She produced a will granting her control of the family residence, personal accounts, and several visible businesses. The trust was handled separately. Why didn't the lawyers tell me? One disappeared. Another accepted money to remain silent. The third died in what the police called a boating accident. My stomach twisted. You think Vivian killed him? I think Vivian is too frightened to kill anyone herself. But she has surrounded herself with men who are not. I looked at the document again. Marriage activates the trust. Yes. The true purpose of the blue dress became clear. My mouth went dry. She didn't sell me to you because of Nathan's debt. Not entirely. She wants me married. To someone she believes she can control. I stood so quickly that the chair scraped backward. You. Luca's eyes remained steady. That was the proposal. My heartbeat became deafening. You agreed to marry a woman you had never met? No. But I'm here. Because I agreed to receive you. That sounds like the same thing. It is not. Then explain the difference. Luca rose. He was taller than I had realized. and the desk no longer felt like enough distance between us. Nathan Hartwell stole $1,800,000 from a private gaming operation under my protection, he said. When confronted, he offered information about a planned takeover of the docks. Vivian offered the marriage arrangement. She believed that if you married me, I would gain access to your trust and protect the Hartwell family from Nathan's enemies. And you refused? I told her I would consider the information. You sent cars. I sent Matteo to collect evidence. You collected me. His expression darkened. Vivian was instructed to bring the trust documents. I stared at him. For the first time that evening, something close to anger appeared beneath his control. She used me instead. Yes. Why didn't Matteo take me back? Because someone followed your vehicle from the house. My fear returned instantly. Who? We are determining that now. Vivian? She may have intended to deliver you to someone else if I rejected the arrangement. The room seemed colder. Why? Because once you are married, she loses control of your future. Once you are dead, the trust enters probate, and she can challenge it as your closest surviving guardian. I covered my mouth. Every cruel moment from the past 3 years rearranged itself in my mind. Vivian stopping me from contacting my father's former lawyers. Nathan warning me not to examine company accounts. The sleeping medication Vivian insisted I take. The sudden pressure to sign documents I had never been allowed to read. They had not merely been using me. They had been waiting for the right way to remove me. Luca walked around the desk. I stepped back. He stopped immediately. You are safe in this house, he said. Am I free to leave? Yes. The answer surprised me. Right now. I would advise against it. That isn't freedom. It is freedom accompanied by accurate information. He moved to the window. Below us, armed guards crossed the courtyard. The men following you belong to Adrian Voss, he continued. He controls 3 ports south of the city and wants the Hartwell docks. If you leave without protection, he will take you. If Vivian reaches you first, she will pressure you into marrying one of Nathan's associates. If the federal investigators reach you, they may treat you as a participant in the financial crimes committed through your name. My name? Luca looked back at me. Nathan opened accounts using your identity. The final piece of strength inside me nearly broke. I didn't sign anything. Your signature was forged. Can you prove that? Yes. Will you? That depends. I laughed once. It sounded empty. There it is. His eyebrow lifted. The price. Everything has one. What do you want from me? The docks. At least you're honest. I have no interest in pretending I am charitable. You want me to marry you. I want to prevent Voss from controlling the shoreline. That wasn't my question. No, Luca said. I do not want to marry you. The rejection should have relieved me. Instead, it stung in a way I did not understand. Perhaps because after being valued at $2 million by Vivian, being unwanted by Luca made me feel foolishly small. He continued before I could respond. A marriage forced by fear creates a liability. I do not collect unwilling wives. What do you suggest? You remain here until we secure the original trust documents and expose the accounts Nathan opened. After that, you may decide what happens to the company. And the debt. Nathan's debt is Nathan's problem. Will you kill him? Luca's face became unreadable again. Do you want me to? No. The answer came quickly. Too quickly. I despised Nathan, but I did not want his death attached to my name. Luca studied me. Then I will not kill him. Just like that. No. Not just like that. He returned to his chair. Your stepmother placed you inside a conflict that began long before tonight. Voss believes you are the key to the docks. Vivian believes you are her escape. Nathan believes you are too weak to fight him. All 3 will attempt to control you. And you? His gaze held mine. I will teach you how to make control impossible. A quiet knock interrupted us. Matteo entered without waiting. His face was harder than before. We found the vehicle, he said. Luca's attention sharpened. Who? Voss's people. 2 men. They abandoned the car near the lower road. Any sign they breached the grounds? No. Double the eastern patrols. Matteo hesitated. There's more. He placed a phone on the desk. A video was paused on the screen. The image showed the front entrance of my family home. The recording time was less than 20 minutes old. Vivian stood outside with Nathan. They were speaking to a man I did not recognize. He wore a gray coat and held an umbrella. Even through the small screen, I could see Vivian was frightened. The man said something. Nathan shook his head. Then the stranger struck him. I flinched. The video ended. Audio? Luca asked. Poor quality. But we recovered one sentence. Matteo pressed the screen. The stranger's voice came through the speaker. You promised us the girl before Moretti discovered the trust. My knees weakened. Luca reached out as if to steady me, but stopped before touching me. I stared at the frozen image of Vivian. She was going to give me to them. Yes, Matteo said. Why send me with your men? To make it appear that Mr. Moretti took you by force, Matteo answered. Voss could then accuse him of violating the neutrality agreement between the families. It would give Voss justification to attack. I looked at Luca. She wanted both of us destroyed. Apparently. What happens now? Luca closed the folder. Now Vivian learns her plan failed. He gave Matteo several instructions in Italian. Matteo nodded and left. I remained near the desk. What did you tell him? To bring Vivian and Nathan here. Fear and anticipation collided inside me. When? Tonight. I don't want to see them. That is your decision. I looked at the trust documents again. For 3 years, I had lived beneath Vivian's control because I believed I had nowhere else to go. Now I owned a company worth millions. At least on paper. But money did not erase fear. It merely gave more people a reason to hunt me. I want a copy of everything in that folder, I said. Luca's mouth moved slightly. Not a smile. Something close. Good. And I want access to the company accounts. Better. And I want to see every document carrying my forged signature. He pressed a button on his desk. A moment later, Teresa appeared. Bring Miss Hartwell a laptop and prepare the blue guest suite. I don't want the blue suite, I said. Teresa looked confused. Luca waited. I glanced down at the dress Vivian had chosen. Anything except blue. Teresa's expression softened. The garden suite, then. She left. Luca began gathering the documents. You should eat. I'm not hungry. Fear often feels like a lack of appetite. So does betrayal. His hands paused. For a second, the Black King disappeared, and I saw something behind his eyes that looked unexpectedly familiar. Pain recognized pain. Then the wall returned. Teresa will bring food. I can feed myself. I did not say you couldn't. Do you order everyone around? Yes. That must become exhausting. Only when people argue badly. Despite everything, a quiet laugh escaped me. It startled us both. Luca looked at me for a long moment. Then a sound cracked through the house. Not thunder. An explosion. The office windows shook. The lights went out. A red emergency glow flooded the room. Luca moved before I understood what was happening. He grabbed my waist and pulled me behind the desk as glass shattered somewhere in the hallway. His body covered mine. A second blast struck the eastern side of the estate. The floor trembled beneath us. Alarms began pulsing through the walls. Luca opened a hidden compartment beneath the desk and removed a handgun. Stay down. What's happening? Voss decided not to wait. Gunfire erupted outside. My breath stopped. Luca pressed one finger to his earpiece. Report. Voices answered, distorted and urgent. He listened for several seconds. Then his gaze dropped to me. They breached the eastern wall. How? Someone gave them the security codes. Nathan? Possibly. Footsteps thundered through the corridor. Luca raised the weapon. The office door opened. Matteo entered, blood running from a cut above his eye. 6 men inside, he said. More at the lower gate. We lost the camera system. Teresa? Safe room. Take Emilia. Matteo moved toward me. A bullet tore through the office door. Wood splintered across the carpet. Luca fired twice. A body collapsed outside. I covered my ears, but the sound still punched through my skull. Matteo pulled me upright. We have to move. Luca stepped into the hallway, firing toward the far end. Men shouted. Smoke poured beneath the ceiling. Matteo dragged me toward a side door hidden behind the shelves. I looked back. Luca stood alone in the red emergency light, calm in the middle of chaos. For one impossible second, he looked directly at me. Go! The hidden passage closed between us. Matteo hurried me down a narrow stone staircase. The air smelled of dust and cold earth. Above us, gunfire continued. Where are we going? Underground garage. What about Luca? He knows the house. That isn't an answer. He gave me an order. And I didn't. Matteo stopped so suddenly I almost collided with him. In the dim light, his expression was severe. Listen carefully. Men are inside this estate because they believe possessing you will give them control of the Hartwell Trust. Mr. Moretti is risking his life to prevent that. You can cooperate, or you can make his sacrifice meaningless. The words struck me silent. We continued downward. At the bottom of the staircase was a reinforced steel door. Matteo entered a code, and it opened into an underground garage filled with black vehicles. 3 guards waited beside an armored SUV. One opened the rear door. Matteo pushed me toward it. A shot rang out. One of the guards fell. Matteo spun around and fired toward the staircase. 2 men appeared through the doorway. Everything became noise. Gunshots. Shouting. Metal striking concrete. A guard pulled me behind the SUV. Bullets shattered one of the overhead lights. Darkness swallowed half the garage. I crouched beside the rear wheel, pressing my hands over my head. Then I saw something beneath the vehicle. A phone. Its screen was cracked but illuminated. It must have fallen from the dead guard's pocket. I reached for it. A notification glowed across the screen. Security network offline. Below it was a map of the estate. The eastern wall flashed red. The garage door flashed yellow. And one section of the underground tunnel displayed a green access point. I remembered my father's lessons. Every system had a pattern. Every company had an overlooked weakness. Every number told a story. The attackers had entered through the east because someone gave them the code. But why had the garage not opened? Because they did not have access to the internal emergency network. Not yet. Another notification appeared. Remote override requested. Someone was trying to open the garage from outside. I tapped the screen. A password box appeared. 4 digits. I looked around. At the numbered parking spaces. At the security markings. At the date stamped beneath the estate map. Then I remembered the silver watch on Luca's wrist. Engraved beneath the face had been a date. I had noticed it when he placed the trust documents before me. 11-04. I typed 1104. Access granted. A control panel opened. My heartbeat accelerated. The system allowed me to close internal doors, activate sprinklers, control lights, and lock sections of the property. The eastern corridor showed 6 heat signatures. The office showed 1. Luca. 2 attackers were approaching him from opposite directions. Matteo! I shouted. He was exchanging fire near the staircase. He glanced back. I have the security controls. His eyes widened. Lock the eastern passage. I tapped the screen. Nothing happened. Network error. The system was damaged. But one option remained available. Fire suppression. I activated it. Seconds later, the map showed sprinklers releasing through the eastern wing. Smoke began clearing. The attackers' heat signatures became more visible. I locked the first internal door. This time, the command worked. 3 signatures were trapped behind it. Luca's position moved toward the office exit. Another attacker came from the library. I shut the library gate. A gunshot rang out behind me. The phone nearly fell from my hand. One of Voss's men had moved along the far side of the garage. He grabbed the guard beside me and struck him with the handle of his weapon. The guard collapsed. The attacker turned toward me. He was broad, masked, and carrying a pistol. There she is. I backed against the SUV. He reached for me. I lifted the only weapon I had. The phone. Don't move, I said. He laughed. My thumb hovered over the garage control. You think that will save you? No. I pressed the button marked vehicle barrier. A steel security post shot upward from the floor beneath him. It struck his arm, knocking the weapon away. He shouted and stumbled. I ran. He caught the back of my dress. The fabric tore. I fell hard against the concrete. He dragged me backward. I screamed, kicked, and clawed at the floor, but he was too strong. Then 3 gunshots exploded behind us. His grip vanished. He collapsed beside me. I rolled away, staring at the spreading darkness beneath his coat. Luca stood several feet away. Blood marked the sleeve of his white shirt. His weapon remained pointed at the fallen man. His eyes moved to me. Are you hurt? I shook my head, though my shoulder burned from the fall. Luca crossed the distance and pulled me to my feet. His hands moved over my arms, checking for wounds. I told you to leave. The garage was compromised. You should have stayed inside the vehicle. They were opening the door remotely. His eyes dropped to the phone in my hand. What did you do? I trapped 3 of them in the eastern corridor, activated the fire system, and locked the library gate. Matteo approached, breathing heavily. She restored part of the security network. Luca looked at me differently. Not like a frightened woman. Not like an obligation. Like a question he had not expected. A guard shouted from across the garage. Movement in the tunnel. The underground access door opened. Several armed men emerged. Matteo lifted his weapon. Luca pushed me behind him. Then everyone froze. Vivian entered through the tunnel. Nathan followed her. The man in the gray coat walked behind them with a gun pressed to Nathan's neck. Vivian's perfect appearance was gone. Her hair hung around her face, and one side of her gown was torn. Nathan's nose was bleeding. The gray-coated man smiled. Luca. Luca's body became completely still. Adrian. So this was Voss. The man who wanted my father's docs. He appeared almost ordinary. Middle-aged, clean-shaven, with calm blue eyes and a pleasant voice. That made him more frightening. Voss looked at me over Luca's shoulder. Emilia Hartwell, he said. Your stepmother has caused considerable inconvenience. Vivian began crying. Emilia, please. Tell them this was a misunderstanding. I stared at her. You promised me to him. No. I was trying to protect you. Voss laughed softly. Vivian, even now? She closed her eyes. Nathan looked at me. For the first time in my life, he was not smiling. Emilia, he said, you have to help us. I almost admired the certainty in his voice. He still believed I existed to rescue him. Luca took one step forward. Voss pressed the gun harder against Nathan's neck. Careful. You invaded my home, Luca said. And you took property promised to me. I am not property, I said. Voss's gaze shifted to me. No. You are far more valuable. He removed a document from his coat. Your stepmother signed an agreement transferring guardianship and marital authority. I'm 23. Legal documents can be wonderfully flexible when the right people are paid. Vivian spoke quickly. I had no choice, Emilia. Nathan made mistakes. Mr. Voss said he would kill him. And you offered me instead. He is my son. The words entered me quietly. There was no shock. No fresh pain. Only confirmation of what I had always known. Nathan was her son. I was an expense inherited from a dead husband. Voss smiled at Luca. Give me the girl and I leave your house. No, Luca said. The answer came without hesitation. Voss sighed. Then Vivian and Nathan die first. Vivian screamed. Nathan began struggling. Voss's men raised their weapons. Luca's guards did the same. One careless movement would turn the garage into a graveyard. I looked down at the phone. The security map was still open. The tunnel entrance had a manual emergency door. A thick steel barrier designed to seal the underground route. Voss and 4 of his men stood inside the marked closure zone. Vivian and Nathan stood just outside it. If I pressed the button, the door would separate them. But Voss held Nathan, and one of his men aimed directly at Luca. My thumb trembled. Luca spoke without looking at me. Whatever you are considering, do not. Voss's smile widened. She's intelligent. Daniel Hartwell used to boast about that. You knew my father? I asked. Better than Moretti did. Did you kill him? The garage became silent. Vivian looked at the floor. Nathan's face changed. Only slightly, but I saw it. Voss tilted his head. Your father died in a car accident. That wasn't my question. Voss glanced at Vivian. And in that glance, I found the answer. My breath left me. I looked at my stepmother. You knew. Vivian shook her head frantically. No. You knew his accident wasn't an accident. I didn't know until afterward. Nathan closed his eyes. I stared at him. You knew too. Emilia, he whispered. Voss appeared bored. Daniel refused to sell the docks. His death created opportunities. The grief I had carried for 3 years changed shape. It was no longer heavy. It became sharp. Focused. You killed my father for his company. Your father died because he misunderstood the future. And Vivian helped you. She provided his travel schedule. Vivian sobbed. He threatened Nathan. Every excuse returned to Nathan. Every betrayal. Every stolen dollar. Every bruise. Every lie. All for him. Something inside me went still. I stopped being afraid. Luca finally looked back at me. Perhaps he saw the change because his expression tightened. Emilia. I pressed the emergency control. The steel barrier dropped. Everything happened at once. Voss shoved Nathan forward and leapt backward. The massive door slammed between his group and the garage. Gunfire struck the steel from the other side. Nathan fell to the floor. Vivian screamed and covered her head. Luca's guards surrounded them. The attackers trapped inside the tunnel began pounding against the barrier. Voss's voice echoed faintly through the metal. This is not finished. I stared at the door. No, I whispered. It isn't. Luca took the phone from my hand. You could have killed Nathan. I know. He studied my face. Did that matter to you? I looked at my stepbrother kneeling on the concrete. At the man whose crimes had led to my sale. At the son Vivian had protected even when the price was my father's life. Yes, I said. I wanted him alive. Nathan looked up with sudden hope. I continued. Dead men escape consequences. His hope disappeared. Vivian crawled toward me. Emilia, listen to me. I made terrible decisions, but everything I did was to protect our family. I stepped away before she could touch me. You gave my father's travel plans to the man who murdered him. I didn't know what Voss intended. You helped cover it up. He said he would destroy us. You helped him destroy me. She began to cry harder. I once believed seeing Vivian afraid would heal something inside me. It did not. Her fear could not return my father. It could not erase 3 years of cruelty. It could not transform betrayal into love. Luca gave Matteo a quiet order. Guards lifted Vivian and Nathan from the floor. Where are you taking us? Nathan demanded. To secure rooms, Matteo said. You can't imprison us. Luca looked at him. Nathan immediately stopped speaking. Vivian struggled as the guards escorted her away. Emilia, please. You cannot trust him. He is a murderer. I watched Luca. Blood still darkened his sleeve. His home had been attacked because he refused to surrender me. But Vivian was not entirely wrong. He was dangerous. He had killed a man only minutes earlier. He commanded criminals. He wanted my docks. Trusting him would be foolish. Trusting anyone would be foolish. The garage slowly quieted. Guards secured the tunnel and carried away the injured. Matteo began issuing orders. Luca looked down at the torn back of my dress. Teresa will examine your shoulder. I'm fine. You hit the ground hard. I said I'm fine. And I heard you. Then stop ordering me. His eyes darkened. You nearly died. So did you. That is different. Because you're a man? Because I chose this life. So did I. The word surprised me. Luca stepped closer. No. Vivian chose for you. She chose to bring me here. She did not choose what I did after I arrived. You activated security controls during an attack. I saved your life. His jaw tightened. You placed yourself within reach of an armed man. And you shot him. This is not a game, Emilia. I know that better than you think. The anger I had contained all night rose to the surface. My father was murdered. My identity was stolen. My inheritance was hidden. My stepmother sold me to one criminal while promising me to another. Men invaded this house because of property I didn't know I owned. Stop speaking to me as though I'm too fragile to understand danger. Luca's expression became very still. I stepped closer until only a small space separated us. I have spent 3 years being told to stay quiet while other people made decisions about my life. I will not do it here. The garage seemed to disappear around us. His attention dropped briefly to my mouth before returning to my eyes. What will you do? He asked quietly. I thought about my father's trust. The stolen company. Voss behind the steel door. Vivian and Nathan locked inside the house. The frightened woman in the blue dress had entered Luca's vehicle believing her life was over. She had been wrong. Her life had not ended. It had finally become hers. I'm going to take back my company, I said. I'm going to prove Nathan forged my signature. I'm going to expose Vivian's involvement in my father's death. And then I'm going to destroy Adrian Voss. Luca's eyes held something dark and powerful. Approval. And how do you plan to do that? I need the trust activated. Understanding moved across his face. Emilia. You said marriage activates it immediately. It does. And you want the docs. I told you I would not force you into a marriage. You aren't forcing me. You are angry, injured, and surrounded by enemies. I have never thought more clearly. A legal marriage to me would place a permanent target on you. I already have one. It would bind you to my organization. It would also give me access to my father's company before Vivian can challenge the trust. Luca took a slow breath. This cannot be undone easily. Good. His gaze sharpened. You do not know what being my wife would require. Then tell me. Public loyalty. Absolute discretion. Enemies who will study every weakness. Security surrounding you at all times. A life where innocence is not enough to protect you. Innocence has never protected me. People will fear you. I'm tired of being pitted. They will hate you for carrying my name. They already hated me when I carried my father's. Luca remained silent. I could see the battle behind his controlled expression. He did not want a helpless bride. I was no longer asking to be one. Marry me, I said. The words hung between us. Not romantic. Not gentle. A declaration of war disguised as a proposal. Luca stepped close enough that I felt the heat of his body. His bruised hand rose slowly. He did not touch me. His fingers stopped beside my face, giving me the chance to move away. I remained still. You entered my house believing I was a monster, he said. I still believe it. And yet you want my name. I want the power people attach to it. That is not the same as wanting me. I don't know you well enough to want you. Something almost amused moved through his eyes. At least you are honest. So are you. Am I? You want the docs more than you want a wife. His hand lowered. That may have been true an hour ago. My breath caught. Before I could respond, Matteo approached. The tunnel team found an explosive device attached to the outer mechanism, he said. Voss planned to destroy the barrier if he couldn't override it. How long? Luca asked. Possibly 10 minutes. Evacuate the underground level. Matteo nodded but looked toward me. And the Hartwells? Move them upstairs under guard. He left. Luca held out his hand. We need to go. I looked at it. A large hand marked by violence. A hand belonging to the most feared man in the city. The same man my stepmother believed would destroy me. The same man who had refused to surrender me. The same man I had just asked to marry. I placed my hand in his. His fingers closed around mine. Not painfully. Securely. We moved toward the staircase as alarms sounded again. Halfway there, Luca stopped. He looked down at our joined hands, then at me. If we survive tonight, he said, I will ask you once more. Ask me what? Whether you truly want to become Emilia Moretti. The underground lights flickered. A muffled explosion shook dust from the ceiling. I tightened my grip on his hand. And when I say yes? His expression became dark enough to make my heart race. Then everyone responsible for selling Emilia Hartwell will learn what it means to face my wife. Above us, the mansion burned. Behind us, our enemies were preparing another attack. And beside me stood the man the entire city feared. I had entered his home as payment. Before the night ended, I would leave the underground passage as his future bride. But neither Luca nor I yet understood the truth. My father's trust contained more than ownership of the docks. Hidden inside it was evidence capable of destroying the Moretti empire, and the signature at the bottom of the final document belonged to Luca's father. The man who might have ordered my father's death long before Adrian Voss ever touched the plan. Here is the continuation from the exact moment Matteo blocked Emilia from crossing the street. Matteo held both arms out, blocking my path. Move. No. Luca is still inside. And he ordered me to get you out. He is not here to enforce that order. Smoke rolled across the street, stinging my eyes. The clinic's upper windows exploded outward. Glass scattered across the pavement as firefighters dragged hoses from their trucks. Matteo did not flinch. Neither did I. I am going back. You will not survive the entrance. You don't know that. I know the eastern stairwell collapsed. Then he could be trapped. That is why the fire crew is searching. They don't know the building. Neither do you. I studied the plans. For 10 minutes in a moving vehicle. That is 10 minutes more than they had. I tried to step around him. Matteo caught my shoulder. I shoved his hand away. His eyes widened. Not because I had hurt him. Because few people dared to touch Luca Moretti's most trusted lieutenant with anger. I will not stand here and watch that building burn, I said. You think I want to? His voice cracked like a whip. For the first time, the control left his face. He is my brother in every way except blood. I have followed him into wars you will never hear about. If I believed entering that building would save him, I would already be inside. Then why aren't you? Because Luca did not build this organization, so we would all die the moment he was in danger. The word struck me. Matteo looked toward the burning clinic. He taught us that loyalty is not the same as panic. I hated him for being right. I hated Luca for teaching him. I hated myself for feeling helpless again. The front entrance collapsed. Firefighters retreated as a section of the roof fell inward. A terrible silence settled inside me. The kind that came when fear became too large for emotion. I stared at the building and imagined Luca beneath the rubble. His hand holding his mother's ring. His voice asking me to stand beside him. His body shielding mine in the tunnel. We had been engaged for less than 2 hours. I had already lost enough people to unfinished conversations. I would not lose him that way. I turned toward the fire commander. Where is the underground service entrance? The man looked at me through his protective visor. Ma'am, step behind the barrier. There is a tunnel beneath the western side. It connects to the warehouse. We know about the tunnel. Then why are you searching only the main structure? We have a team below. How many? He hesitated. That was enough. I looked at Matteo. You said the eastern stairwell collapsed. The western stairwell connects to the basement corridor. It was blocked by fire. Before the roof fell. Realization crossed his face. If Luca couldn't reach the front exit, he would try to return to the tunnel. Matteo grabbed his radio. He ordered 2 men into the warehouse. I followed. Turned. No. You can argue with me after we find him. We may find nothing. Then you will need someone to stop you from going back alone. He stared at me. I saw the truth in his expression. If Luca was dead, Matteo would blame himself for surviving. Perhaps that was why Luca trusted him. They carried the same dangerous instinct to turn grief into punishment. We entered the warehouse. The air inside had grown warmer. Smoke drifted from the open trapdoor leading into the tunnel. 2 guards descended first. Matteo followed. I climbed after him. The tunnel lights had failed. We moved through darkness using flashlights. Water reached our ankles. Ash floated across its surface. Halfway beneath the street, we heard a sound. 3 knocks. The pause. Then 2 more. Matteo froze. What is it? I whispered. He raised one hand. The knocks came again. 3. His face changed. It's our field signal. He ran. We followed the sound to a section of the tunnel where bricks and broken pipes had collapsed from the ceiling. Someone was trapped on the other side. Matteo dropped to his knees. Luca! A cough answered. Then Luca's voice. About time. My knees weakened. Matteo laughed once, a sound filled with relief. We thought you were dead. You may still get your promotion. The guards began moving rubble. I knelt beside Matteo and pulled smaller pieces away. Emilia? Luca called. I stopped. You sound surprised. I told you to leave. You also told me I could challenge you when you became unbearable. This is not the time. It is exactly the time. A guard lifted a damaged pipe. We cleared enough space to see through the opening. Luca sat against the tunnel wall on the other side. Blood ran from his temple. His left leg was pinned beneath a fallen metal support. Beside him lay an unconscious clinic nurse. You went back for her, I said. She was trapped near the stairwell. The nurse was breathing. Luca had wrapped part of his shirt around her injured arm. Matteo examined the support. We need lifting equipment. The fire is moving toward the basement, Luca said. We do not have time. The heat in the tunnel confirmed it. Smoke thickened behind him. One of the guards called for tools. I studied the support. It had fallen diagonally from the ceiling, pinning Luca below the knee. Moving it incorrectly could bring down more debris. Can you feel your foot? I asked. Yes. Can you move it? His boot shifted slightly. Then the leg may not be broken. Your optimism is moving. I ignored him. The metal support rested against a cracked concrete column. If we lifted from the wrong side, the column could collapse. But the opposite end was wedged beneath a pipe. We don't lift it, I said. Matteo looked at me. We rotate it. Luca examined the angle. She's right. Matteo immediately assigned positions. 2 men braced the concrete column. Another placed a crowbar beneath the support. Matteo crossed through the opening and pulled the unconscious nurse away from the smoke. I crawled through after him. Luca's eyes darkened. You should not be here. I know. We can argue at the wedding. I knelt beside his trapped leg. On 3, Matteo ordered. The men pushed. The support moved less than an inch. Luca's face tightened, but he made no sound. Again. They pushed harder. The pipe beneath the far end bent. Metal scraped across concrete. Now! I shouted. Luca pulled his leg free. The support crashed down again. A section of the tunnel ceiling broke loose behind us. Matteo lifted the nurse. 1 guard helped Luca stand. He nearly fell. I moved beneath his arm. I can walk, he said. You are currently leaning on me. I am adjusting. You are limping. A temporary disagreement with gravity. Smoke poured into the passage. We moved toward the warehouse. Luca's weight became heavier with each step. He was hurt more badly than he admitted. When we reached the ladder, the guards carried the nurse up first. Matteo climbed next. I looked at Luca. How are you getting up? The usual way. You can barely stand. His mouth curved faintly. Then you should not stand beneath me. 2 guards helped pull him through the trapdoor. I followed. The moment Luca emerged from the warehouse, medics surrounded him. He tried to refuse the stretcher. I placed both hands on his chest and pushed him down. Do not test me. The medics looked horrified. Luca looked amused. Are you ordering me? Yes. In front of my men? Especially in front of your men. Matteo covered his mouth. Luca pointed at him. You are still not getting the promotion. Then the medics carried Luca toward the ambulance. I climbed inside with him. He watched me as they cleaned the wound on his forehead and examined his leg. You came back. Of course I did. You should not have. Would you have left me? No. Then stop expecting obedience you would never give. The medic tried to hide a smile. Luca's hand closed around mine. He looked exhausted now. More human. Vale? He asked. Alive. Was? In custody. The drive? I touched the pocket inside my coat. With me. His eyes closed briefly. Good. The ambulance began moving. I held his hand all the way to the hospital. By afternoon, doctors confirmed that Luca's leg was badly bruised but not broken. The wound on his temple required several stitches, and smoke inhalation meant he had to remain under observation. He hated every minute of it. The hospital placed him in a private suite guarded by Moretti men. He spent the first hour trying to conduct business from the bed. I took his phone. Return it. No. You do not have authority over my communications. I am your fiancé. That is not a recognized executive title. It is when the executive is injured and unreasonable. Matteo stood near the window, reading messages from his tablet. Mr. Moretti, the doctor did say you should rest. Luca looked at him. You are enjoying this. Immensely. I placed Luca's phone inside my bag. He stared at me. You understand I can ask one of the guards to retrieve it. I looked toward the door. Every guard suddenly looked away. You were saying? A knock interrupted us. A federal investigator entered with two other officials. The lead investigator introduced herself as Special Agent Claire Donovan. She was in her 40s, with sharp eyes and a voice that suggested patience had become a limited resource. We need to discuss Adrian Voss, Marcus Vale, and the evidence recovered from the clinic. Luca shifted upright. You can speak here. Agent Donovan looked at me. Miss Hartwell, are you comfortable giving a statement in front of Mr. Moretti? Yes. Is he your attorney? No. Business partner? Not yet. Luca looked at the ring. My fiancé. Agent Donovan noticed it. Her expression did not change. Congratulations. It sounded more like concern than celebration. She opened a folder. Adrian Voss is refusing to speak. Marcus Vale is in surgery, but he gave a recorded statement before being sedated. Did he repeat his accusation against my father? I asked. Yes. The answer hurt even though I expected it. He stated that Daniel Hartwell commissioned the bombing that killed Antonio Moretti. Luca's expression remained still. He also said Voss later ordered Daniel's murder, she continued. Vale provided names, accounts, and locations connected to both crimes. And the drive? Luca asked. We need it. I removed it from my coat pocket but did not hand it over immediately. I want copies made in our presence. Agent Donovan's eyebrows rose. This is federal evidence. It is also evidence concerning the murders of both our fathers and the theft of my company. You are not in a position to set conditions. I have spent 3 years being told I was not in a position to ask questions. The agent studied me. Luca remained silent. He could have interfered. He chose not to. I am not refusing to surrender the drive, I said. But I want a complete digital image made before it leaves this room. 1 copy for investigators, 1 for my independent attorney, and 1 stored in a secure location. Evidence must remain protected. So must I. Agent Donovan looked toward Luca. Is this his idea? No, he said. If it were mine, she would have requested 5 copies. I looked at him. 4. His mouth curved. Agent Donovan sighed. We can create an authorized forensic duplicate with a documented chain of custody. Your attorney may receive material allowed under disclosure rules. That is acceptable. I handed her the drive. She gave it to a technician. Then she turned to me. We also recovered Vivian Hartwell and Nathan Hartwell from Mr. Moretti's estate. Recovered? I repeated. They were not lost. They claim they were unlawfully detained. Luca's voice cooled. They entered my property with men who attacked it. Vivian says she was brought there against her will. She delivered Emilia to that estate in exchange for money. Agent Donovan looked at me. Is that true? Yes. I described everything. The dress. The agreement. Nathan's debts. The hidden trust. Vivian's recorded conversation with Voss. As I spoke, the details sounded almost unreal, but Agent Donovan wrote them down without visible surprise. Perhaps she had heard worse. When I finished, she closed the folder. Vivian Hartwell has offered to cooperate. I felt no relief. What does she want? Protection for Nathan. Of course. She claims Nathan can identify several financial intermediaries connected to Voss. Luca spoke. He can identify them because he stole from them, which may make his information useful. And reduce his sentence, I said. Possibly. I looked toward the window. People moved through the city below, unaware that the men who controlled its docks were being exposed inside a hospital room. What happens to Hartwell Maritime? The trust dispute is a civil matter, Agent Donovan said. But the fraud allegations may justify freezing the accounts. That would shut down operations. Temporarily. Thousands of workers depend on those docks. We cannot allow money to be moved while ownership is disputed. I looked at Luca. He understood the danger. If the accounts were frozen, Voss's remaining allies could create panic among employees, suppliers, and clients. By the time the courts released control, Hartwell Maritime might be worthless. We need the marriage, I said. Agent Donovan looked from me to Luca. I beg your pardon? The trust transfers control to me upon marriage. That seems like an extreme response to a corporate freeze. It is the fastest legal response. Miss Hartwell, you have experienced significant trauma in the last 24 hours. I am aware. You may want to postpone major life decisions. I postponed decisions for 3 years while Vivian controlled my father's company. Agent Donovan turned to Luca. And you agree with this? No. I stared at him. He continued. I believe she should wait. Luca. But I also believe the decision is hers. The agent studied us. You are an unusual couple. We are not a couple yet, I said. Luca looked at the ring again. Agent Donovan gathered her papers. We will request an emergency court order protecting the company's assets without freezing ordinary payroll and operating expenses. That may give you several days. How many? Possibly 3. 3 days. Long enough to plan a wedding. Short enough to make every choice feel like an emergency. After the investigators left, I turned to Luca. You do not want to marry me. That is not what I said. You told her we should wait. We should. Voss's organization will not wait. The investigators have him. Voss built a network large enough to operate after his arrest. You are making a permanent decision because of a temporary threat. Marriage is not permanent if both people agree to end it. His eyes narrowed. You are already planning our divorce? I am acknowledging reality. Which reality? That we barely know each other. He pushed aside the blanket and stood. Pain crossed his face. Get back into bed. No. You ordered me to rest 10 minutes ago. And you ignored me. Apparently, that is how our relationship works. He stepped closer. The trust is not the only reason you want this marriage. Do not tell me what I want. Then tell me. I opened my mouth. No answer came. Luca waited. The room became painfully quiet. I looked at the bandage on his forehead, at the bruises on his hands, at the man who had returned for a trapped nurse while a building burned around him. I don't want to be alone again, I said. The truth frightened me more than gunfire. Luca's expression changed. I continued before courage disappeared. I do not mean I need protection every moment. I do not mean I cannot survive without you. I survived Vivian. I survived losing my father. I survived being delivered to your house's payment. I looked down at the ring. But last night, when we stood beside the window, I remembered what it felt like not to carry everything by myself. Luca said nothing. I know you are dangerous, I said. I know there are things you have done that I may never accept. I know marrying you will make enemies I have not met. I lifted my eyes. But when I was trapped in the tunnel, you came back. When I asked for the truth about our fathers, you gave it to me even though it might destroy our alliance. And when I said I wanted authority over my company, You did not offer to manage it for me. I would be foolish to try. That may be the most romantic thing you have said. I can do better. He took my hand. I do not want you to marry me because you fear loneliness. Then why should I? Because when you imagine tomorrow, you want me in it. My heartbeat changed. Simple words. A more dangerous question than any threat. I imagined the mansion repaired. The dining room filled with files. Luca across the table disagreeing with me. Teresa pretending not to listen. Matteo complaining about both of us. I imagined Hartwell workers receiving their salaries because I had taken control. I imagined visiting my father's grave without shame. I imagined building something that did not depend on fear. And Luca was there. Not in front of me. Not above me. Beside me. Yes, I whispered. His thumb moved across my knuckles. Yes, what? When I imagine tomorrow, you are in it. Luca lifted my hand and kissed the ring. Then we marry tomorrow. I blinked. Tomorrow? You wanted speed. I expected at least 2 days. The court protection may fail. You are using business urgency to avoid planning a wedding. I have no interest in flowers. I might. He looked genuinely concerned. Do you? I don't know. I've never planned a wedding. We can acquire flowers. Acquire? Yes. You make romance sound like a hostile takeover. It often is. I laughed. This time, Luca smiled fully. The transformation startled me. The Black King disappeared. For a moment he was simply Luca. Then his phone rang inside my bag. He held out his hand. I gave it back. Matteo, he said after answering. Arrange the wedding for tomorrow evening. The pause. No, I have not lost my mind. Another pause. Luca looked at me. Do you want flowers? Yes. What kind? I don't know. He spoke into the phone. Several kinds. I covered my face. Matteo, find Teresa. She will understand. He ended the call. You are impossible, I said. You agreed to marry me. That does not make it less true. Preparations began before Luca was discharged. Teresa arrived at the hospital carrying fabric samples, jewelry boxes, and an expression of determined authority. She rejected every suggestion Luca made. No black flowers. I did not request black flowers, he said. You were thinking it. I was not. You have been thinking in black since childhood. Matteo brought legal documents. My independent attorney, Helena Cross, reviewed every page. The marriage agreement protected my ownership of Hartwell Maritime. Luca would have no automatic claim to my trust or personal accounts. In return, I would hold no automatic ownership in Moretti businesses. Assets acquired jointly would be divided equally. Either of us could end the marriage without financial punishment. There was also a security clause. I read it twice. You cannot assign guards to me without my agreement. Luca looked offended. You require protection. I require privacy. You will have both. The clause gives you authority to increase security whenever you determine a threat exists. Yes. Then my agreement means nothing. It means you may choose which guards. No. Helena watched silently. Luca leaned back in his chair. What do you propose? In emergencies, you can assign protection for 24 hours. After that, we discuss it. 48. 24. 36. 24. His eyes narrowed. 30. I considered. 24, and I agree not to dismiss the guards without telling you where I'm going. 28. That is not a normal number. It is a compromise. 26. Agreed. Helena slowly wrote the change. I have negotiated international shipping agreements with less difficulty, she said. Luca looked at me. She started it. The wedding was scheduled for sunset at the Moretti estate. Despite the damage, the western garden had survived the attack. Teresa arranged white roses, olive branches, and candles along the stone terrace overlooking the sea. Only a few people would attend. Theo, Teresa, Helena, several Moretti family advisors. 2 trusted Hartwell employees who had worked with my father. No reporters. No business partners. No politicians. Luca wanted the marriage legally registered before anyone could interfere. Public announcements would come afterward. On the morning of the wedding, Agent Donovan called. Marcus Vale had survived surgery. He had provided the location of additional evidence. Adrian Voss had been charged with conspiracy, murder, racketeering, kidnapping, financial fraud, and several other crimes. Vivian had accepted a cooperation agreement. Nathan had not. He insisted the money was borrowed, not stolen. He will change his mind, Luca said. How do you know? Prison clarifies vocabulary. Vivian requested to speak with me before signing her final statement. I refused. For years, I had waited for her to explain why I was never enough. Now I understood the question had been wrong. I had always been enough. Vivian's inability to love me had never measured my worth. It measured hers. Before leaving the hospital, Luca received a sealed envelope from Agent Donovan. Inside was a copy of Marcus Vale's earliest recorded statement. There was also a letter. My father had written it 2 days before his death. Vale had kept it as leverage. The envelope was addressed to me. My hands shook as I opened it. Emilia, if this reaches you, it means I waited too long to tell you the truth. I made a decision years ago that caused the death of Antonio Moretti. I believed I was protecting you, our company, and many innocent people from a man I feared. Fear made me arrogant. I convinced myself that preventing one possible crime justified committing another. I was wrong. Antonio discovered my contact with federal investigators, but he did not threaten you. He offered to help me expose Adrian Voss. By the time I understood this, I had already authorized the attack. I have lived with that guilt every day. I am gathering evidence to confess and dismantle Voss's network. I do not know whether I will succeed. You may hear terrible things about me. Some will be true. Do not defend my crimes because you loved me. Do not inherit my excuses. Build something better than I did. You once told me I cared more about Hartwell Maritime than I cared about you. I was angry, but perhaps you saw something I refused to see. The company was meant to become your future. It should never become your prison. If you choose to walk away from it, I will understand. If you choose to lead it, lead differently. Trust carefully. Love bravely. And never allow anyone, including my memory, to decide the limits of your life. I love you beyond every mistake I made. I read the letter twice. Then I pressed it against my chest. My father had done something terrible. Loving him did not change that. His guilt did not erase the years he had cared for me. Both truths existed. That was the hardest part. People were rarely only monsters or heroes. They were choices repeated until those choices became a life. Luca stood near the hospital window. He had already read a copy of the statement accusing my father. He had not asked to see the letter. I walked toward him. My father ordered the bombing. Yes. He knew your father was trying to help him. Luca looked at me. Eventually. I am sorry. You did not do it. He was my father. And Antonio was mine. We are not responsible for inheriting their blood. But we inherited the consequences. Yes. I gave him the letter. He read it silently. When he finished, he folded it carefully. He confessed. He planned to. Voss stopped him. That does not excuse what he did. No. I waited for anger. Luca only looked tired. What will you do? I asked. With what? The truth. Release it. I searched his face. You would expose that Antonio worked with federal investigators. He was trying to destroy Voss. It may damage his reputation inside your organization. It will. Your enemies may call him weak. They already call dead men many things. You do not have to decide today. Yes, I do. His voice was quiet. If we begin our marriage by hiding the truth about our fathers, we will become them. The answer removed my final doubt. I stepped closer. I love that you said our marriage. Luca looked down at me. I have been saying it for 24 hours. You said the marriage. Is there a difference? Yes. He touched my cheek. Then I will learn it. The wedding dress was waiting at the estate. Teresa had chosen ivory silk with long sleeves and a simple fitted waist. There were no diamonds covering it. No heavy layers. It felt like something I had chosen, even though I had not. Perhaps Teresa understood me better than people who had lived in my house for years. She helped fasten the final buttons. "You look like yourself," she said. "That is the nicest thing anyone could say." She placed the red shawl around my shoulders. "Only until you reach the terrace." I looked at my reflection. The woman in the mirror did not resemble the frightened person Vivian had dressed in blue. Her eyes were steadier. Her shoulders no longer curved inward. The ring on her hand was not a chain. It was a decision. "Teresa, were you frightened when Luca's mother left?" "Very." "Did you think she would return?" "For years." "Did Luca?" "He never said." Teresa adjusted the shawl. "But every birthday he asked whether any letters had arrived." My heart tightened. "She never wrote?" "Once. The year he turned 18. "What did she say?" "That she hoped he would become kinder than his father." "Did he?" Teresa smiled sadly. "He became better in some ways and worse in others." "That is not comforting." "It is honest." She took my hands. "You cannot save him from himself." "I know. And he cannot heal everything Vivian broke." "I know. You will both forget these things." "Probably." "Then remember to remind each other." Matteo waited outside the room. He wore a dark suit, and the injury from the previous night had been covered by a narrow bandage near his temple. "You clean up well," I said. "So do you." "Is Luca nervous?" "No." I looked at him. "He threatened 3 florists. That sounds nervous." "He wanted the arrangements completed before noon." "What happened?" "They arrived at 12:15. "The horror." Matteo offered his arm. "Ready?" "No." "Good." People who feel completely ready for marriage have misunderstood it. We walked through the repaired western corridor. Workers had removed most of the debris, but cracks still marked the walls. I was glad they remained visible. The house did not need to pretend nothing had happened. Neither did we. At the garden entrance, Matteo stopped. My father should have been there. The thought arrived suddenly. Sharp and unavoidable. He should have walked beside me. He should have complained that the ceremony was too small. He should have examined Luca with suspicion. Then I remembered the letter. "Do not allow my memory to decide the limits of your life." I looked toward the terrace. Luca waited beneath an arch of olive branches. The sea stretched behind him. The sun had begun sinking toward the horizon, covering the water in gold. He wore a black suit. Of course. But there was no tie, and the top button of his shirt remained open. His eyes found mine immediately. Everything else disappeared. Matteo leaned closer. "He is nervous." "How can you tell?" "He has checked the same watch 11 times. I smiled. Then we walked forward. The ceremony was short. Helena had arranged for a judge to officiate. He spoke about legal partnership, shared responsibility, and mutual consent. No one spoke about destiny. I was grateful. Destiny had been blamed for too many choices already. When it was time for vows, Luca turned toward me. "I was told I should prepare something." "You did not." "I did." He removed a folded card from his pocket. Then he looked at it once and put it away. "Emilia, the first time you entered my home, you believed you had been sold." The garden became completely silent. I believed I was collecting a debt. We were both wrong. His voice remained calm, but his hand tightened around mine. "You were never the payment. You were the person everyone else had underestimated." Tears blurred my sight. "You questioned me before you trusted me. You challenged me before you understood what I could do. You refused protection that required your silence." A faint smile touched his mouth. "You are the most difficult agreement I have ever entered." A few guests laughed softly. "I promise not to confuse loving you with owning you. I promise to tell you the truth even when it costs me power. I promise that no enemy, family name, or inherited crime will decide who we become." He lifted my hand. "And when you are reckless, stubborn, or impossible, I will remind myself that those are also the reasons I chose you." I smiled through tears. The judge turned to me. I had written nothing, but the words came. Luca, when I first saw you, I thought you were the most dangerous man in the room. I was. You still are. Another quiet laugh moved through the guests. But danger was not what frightened me most. What frightened me was the possibility that I would never control my own life again. I looked at him. You gave me a locked room, armed guards, and rules I hated. His eyebrow rose. This is an unusual vow. Let me finish. The guests laughed again. Then you gave me choices. Imperfect choices, sometimes delivered like orders, but choices. His thumb moved across my hand. You stood beside me when I learned the worst truth about my family. You did not ask me to defend my father's crime. You did not use my grief to control me. My voice became softer. I promise to challenge you when power makes you forget the cost of fear. I promise not to mistake independence for isolation. I promise to build something with you that neither of our fathers knew how to build. What? A family where love is not a debt. Luca's eyes changed. For once, he had no answer. The judge asked for the rings. Matteo handed Luca a simple gold band for me, replacing the engagement ring only for the ceremony. I placed a matching band on Luca's hand. Do you, Emilia Rose Hartwell, take Luca Antonio Moretti as your husband? I do. Do you, Luca Antonio Moretti, take Emilia Rose Hartwell as your wife? I do. The judge smiled. Then by the authority granted to me, I pronounce you husband and wife. Luca leaned toward me. I placed one hand against his chest. Wait. The entire garden froze. His expression became alarmed. What? You still have not promised to stop ordering black coffee for me. He stared. Then he laughed. A real laugh. Warm and surprised. I promised to provide alternatives. Acceptable. Then he kissed me. It was not the dramatic claim I once expected from a man like Luca Moretti. It was careful. Almost questioning. I answered by pulling him closer. The guests applauded. Somewhere behind us, the sea struck the cliffs. For one breath, there were no murders, trusts, enemies, or companies. Only the man whose hand rested against my back. Only the knowledge that I had chosen him. The moment ended when Matteo's phone vibrated. Luca pulled away slowly. You should answer, I said. Matteo checked the screen. His expression turned serious. The court recognized the marriage and activated the trust. My heartbeat quickened. Hartwell Maritime is officially under Emilia's control. Luca looked at me. Mrs. Moretti. Do not call me that in business meetings. Mrs. Hartwell? Emilia. Very well, Chairwoman Hartwell. That sounded better. Matteo continued. There is another development. Voss's legal team filed an emergency claim challenging the trust. On what basis? I asked. They allege Daniel Hartwell's involvement in Antonio's death invalidates the original partnership. Luca's expression cooled. That argument would also transfer the docs entirely to my family. Matteo nodded. So Voss hopes to create conflict between us. He hopes Luca will contest my ownership, I said. Everyone looked at him. Luca did not hesitate. Hartwell Maritime belongs to Emilia. One of the Moretti advisors stepped forward. Mr. Moretti, the agreement clearly states. I know what it states. If Daniel violated the partnership, your family may possess the stronger claim. My father died because Daniel made a criminal choice. That does not make stealing from Emilia justice. The advisor lowered his voice. Our competitors will view this as weakness. Luca looked at him. Then let them test it. The man stepped back. Luca turned to Matteo. Release a joint statement. The Moretti family recognizes Emilia's ownership. We will oppose Voss's challenge. Immediately. I looked at my husband. You may be surrendering billions in property. No. What would you call it? A wedding gift. I shook my head. You really do make romance sound threatening. Dinner was served beneath strings of lights. For the first time in years, I sat at a family table without measuring every word. Teresa told stories about Luca as a child. Most involved broken windows, hidden animals, or arguments with private tutors. I did not hide the dog, Luca said. You kept him in your father's library for 3 days, Teresa replied. He followed me. You fed him steak. He was hungry. Matteo raised his glass. To the only creature besides Emilia who ever entered the Moretti house and immediately took control. Everyone laughed. Even Luca. Later, he and I walked toward the edge of the garden. The sea was dark now. The city lights glowed in the distance. Do you regret it? I asked. The dog? The marriage? It has been 3 hours. That is enough time for you to develop an opinion. He looked at me. No. Not even slightly? I regret allowing Matteo to speak at dinner. That was my favorite part. Then I regret nothing. I rested my head against his shoulder. What happens tomorrow? You meet Hartwell's directors. They will not accept me. They do not need to like you. They may resign. Replace them. You make everything sound simple. It is simple. Not easy. I thought about the employees. The debts Nathan created. The accounts Vivian manipulated. The docs Voss had tried to control through murder. I want to make the company legal. Luca became still. Completely? Yes. That will create enemies. More enemies than we already have? Different ones. I want transparent accounts, legitimate contracts, employee protections, and independent audits. You realize Hartwell Maritime handled shipments for my family. I do. And you intend to stop? Yes. He looked toward the sea. For a moment, I feared the conversation had revealed the limit of our partnership. Then he nodded. I will move Moretti operations elsewhere. You would do that? I promised not to make your company a prison. That will cost you. Everything costs something. I took his hand. What will you build instead? He looked at me. Something better. 3 weeks later, Adrian Voss's network began collapsing. Marcus Vale's evidence exposed hidden accounts, corrupt officials, security contractors, and companies used to move illegal money through the ports. Several of Voss's allies fled. Others cooperated. Vivian entered protective custody after signing a full confession. She admitted concealing my trust, facilitating the fraud, and providing Voss with my father's route. Nathan accepted a plea agreement only after investigators showed him the forged accounts bearing my name. He would spend years in prison. He sent me a letter. I did not open it. Not immediately. Perhaps one day I would read it. Forgiveness did not require access. At Hartwell Maritime, the board attempted to remove me during my first meeting. They argued I lacked experience. I placed Nathan's fraudulent transactions on the screen. Then I showed how 3 directors had approved them without review. By the end of the meeting, 2 directors had resigned. A third asked whether I intended to report them. I intend to audit every decision made after my father's death, I said. What happens to you will depend on what the numbers reveal. Luca sat silently at the far end of the room. He had attended only as an observer. One director turned toward him. Mr. Moretti, surely you understand the danger of allowing an inexperienced young woman to dismantle established relationships. Luca's face became expressionless. You are asking me to control my wife. I am asking you to advise her. She did not request my advice. The director looked confused. Luca leaned back. You have mistaken marriage for ownership. I recommend you do not repeat that mistake. The man resigned before lunch. Within 6 months, Hartwell Maritime changed. Some clients left when we demanded transparent contracts. Better ones replaced them. Worker injuries decreased after we repaired equipment the previous board had ignored. We created a fund for families affected by violence connected to the docks. Luca contributed anonymously. I discovered it anyway. Money always spoke. Our marriage changed too. We argued. Often. About security. Business. His habit of answering questions with silence. My habit of leaving meetings without guards. Once, I discovered he had assigned someone to follow me without telling me. I moved into a hotel for 2 nights. He arrived on the 3rd morning with coffee. Not black. 26 hours, I said. What? The agreement allows emergency protection for 26 hours. It was an active threat. You continued it for 4 days. The threat remained. You should have discussed it with me. You would have refused. That is not a reason to remove my choice. He stood silently in the hotel doorway. Then he dismissed the guard. I was wrong. I stared at him. The apology did not come easily. That made it matter. Come inside, I said. Are you returning home? After breakfast. He held up the coffee. I brought alternatives. I took the cup. Good answer. A year after our wedding, the western garden bloomed again. The cracks in the mansion walls had been repaired, but we kept one damaged stone from the attack. It sat inside the library beside my father's letter and a photograph of Antonio Moretti. Not as a monument to violence. As a reminder of what survived it. Teresa found Luca and me there one evening. You have guests, she said. We are not expecting anyone, Luca replied. You are now. Matteo entered carrying a small dog. Dirty. Thin. Terrified. Luca stared at it. No. The dog looked at him. I looked at Luca. No, he repeated. 10 minutes later, the dog was eating steak in the kitchen. We named him Falcon. Matteo insisted it was inappropriate. Teresa said it was perfect. That night, I stood on the balcony while Luca spoke quietly with his advisors inside. The city stretched below us. Once, I had believed power belonged to people who could frighten everyone around them. Vivian had used fear. Voss had used it. Our fathers had allowed it to justify murder. But fear was not the strongest form of power. Choice was. The choice to tell the truth when a lie protected your name. The choice to walk away from inherited cruelty. The choice to love someone without owning them. The choice to become more than what had been done to you. Luca joined me. His hand settled at my waist. What are you thinking about? The night Vivian brought me here. Do you wish it had never happened? I considered the question. I wish my father had lived. I wish Antonio had lived. I wish Vivian had chosen differently. I turned toward him. But I do not wish away everything that came after. He touched the ring on my finger. You were never sold. No. You saved yourself before I understood you needed saving. Mostly. You did help with the burning building. I remember. And Voss. I remember that too. And the marriage contract. Your list is becoming longer. I smiled. Perhaps you saved me a little. He drew me closer. And you? What about me? Did you save me? I looked through the library doors. At his father's photograph. At my father's letter. At the home we had rebuilt. No, I said. You saved yourself. He raised an eyebrow. But I may have helped a little. His mouth curved. That is acceptable. He kissed me beneath the evening sky. Not as the Black King. Not as the man my stepmother had tried to sell me to. As my husband. And I kissed him not as a frightened girl being traded for a debt, but as Emilia Hartwell Moretti, the woman who inherited an empire, uncovered the truth, and chose what would rise from the ruins. If Emilia's journey proved anything, it was that the people who betray us do not get to write the final chapter of our lives. Tell me in the comments, which moment was your favorite? The moment Emilia proposed to Luca, the tunnel rescue, or the wedding where Luca publicly defended her ownership of the docks? And if you enjoyed this story of betrayal, courage, justice, and an unexpected love powerful enough to break two families' cycle of violence, like the video, share it with someone who loves intense mafia romance stories, and subscribe for the next unforgettable story.